the calling, Thomas Miller, and the whispers of the abyss.
In the icy grip of a relentless winter night, Thomas Miller found himself ensnared in an eerie solitude. The cold seeped through the windows like ghostly fingers, and the stillness hung in the air, pregnant with an otherworldly tension. His parents, mere shadows in his memory, had embarked on a journey to the distant realm of family, leaving him marooned in the quiet expanse of his home. The usual solitude felt different that Friday night, a subtle disquiet that whispered through the corridors and nestled itself within the walls. As Thomas lounged in the dim glow of a solitary lamp, the house seemed to harbor secrets, and the shadows danced with a sinister intent. A creak echoed through the vacant hallways, resonating with a malevolent energy. Thomas froze, his senses on edge, as the house itself seemed to exhale a breath tainted with an unseen malevolence. The flickering light cast unsettling shadows that contorted into grotesque shapes, each corner concealing secrets waiting to unravel. A sudden draft, icy and foreboding, slithered through the room, extinguishing the warmth within Thomas's heart. The hairs on the back of his neck stood at attention, and an unsettling silence settled in, broken only by the distant howl of the wind outside. Little did Thomas know that this seemingly ordinary winter night would unfurl a tapestry of terror, weaving together the mundane and the macabre. The stage was set, and the house itself harbored a darkness eager to reveal its secrets, forever altering the course of Thomas's existence. The clock taunted the late hour as Thomas reluctantly rose from the cocoon of his couch, the remnants of an animated world still flickering in his weary eyes. The glow of the television cast an ethereal haze, painting the room in hues of blues and grays. With a languid yawn, he navigated through the late-night wasteland of shopping commercials, the television's faint glow clinging to the edges of his perception. As the show on the Fringe channel concluded its bizarre narrative, Thomas found himself in the spectral silence of his living room. The once familiar surroundings now harbored an unsettling stillness, accentuated by the distant hum of the refrigerator and the muted whispers of the wind outside. With a click, he extinguished the television's glow, plunging the room into shadows, save for the feeble light of a solitary lamp. Fatigue draped over him like a heavy shroud, nudging him toward the sanctuary of his bedroom. Yet, as he approached the living room door, a subtle chill enveloped him, originating from the kitchen's abyss. The air seemed to thicken with an unseen presence, and a cold breeze caressed the nape of his neck, sending a shiver down his spine. His gaze shifted toward the inky darkness of the kitchen, a void that seemed to stare back with malevolent intent. Shadows played tricks, morphing into indistinct shapes that lingered in the periphery of his vision. The silence, once companionable, now whispered unsettling secrets, as if the walls themselves were privy to a sinister revelation. Thomas hesitated, caught between the comfort of his bed and the unnerving unknown that lurked beyond the threshold. The air held a tangible tension, and in that moment, the ordinary transition from living room to bedroom became a precarious journey into the heart of a chilling mystery that awaited him in the shadows. The kitchen stirred with an eerie murmur, a phantom symphony carried by the faintest whispers of the wind. It was as if the very breath of the wind had taken on a spectral voice, a clandestine chorus that danced on the edge of his perception. Crossover, crossover. The ethereal whispers chanted, each syllable laced with a spectral resonance. The words hung in the air, a cryptic invitation or a foreboding warning, weaving through the shadows like unseen threads. Thomas stood frozen, his heartbeat echoing the rhythm of the mysterious incantation. The darkness in the kitchen seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy, and the ordinary became a gateway to the extraordinary. The very air seemed pregnant with a palpable tension, as if the veil between the mundane and the supernatural had thinned to a fragile membrane. In that chilling moment, the boundary between reality and the unknown blurred, and the whispers persisted, a spectral mantra that beckoned Thomas to the threshold of something beyond comprehension. The wind, now a ghostly messenger, carried with it the cryptic call of crossover, echoing through the hollows of the night, and setting the stage for a journey that would redefine the contours of his reality. The door leading to the back garden was located in the kitchen. That must be where the wind is coming from. Thomas proceeds into the kitchen to investigate. A glance toward the garden door revealed an unsettling truth. Its gaping maw had not welcomed the frigid night willingly. The door should have remained sealed, untouched by human hands for days. The realization that it stood ajar sent a tremor through Thomas's weary bones. With a cautious hand, he pushed the door back into its frame, a futile attempt to re-establish the barrier between the mundane and the otherworldly. The key was missing and Thomas was unable to lock the garden door. The ominous whispers persisted, hanging in the air like a phantom fog that refused to dissipate. His eyes fell on the missing key, a small piece of silver glinting in the moonlight outside on the garden table. Thomas steps into the garden to retrieve it, the silence outside growing more oppressive with each step. The crunch of frozen grass beneath his feet echoed louder than the stillness that enveloped the night. As he approached the table, the stark absence of natural sound became deafening. No rustling leaves, no distant hum of the city, only an oppressive void. The air itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting for Thomas to make his next move. The key in hand, he turned to retrace his steps, the cold biting through his clothes like unseen claws. The kitchen door loomed ahead, a gateway between the eerie silence of the outside world and the muffled refuge of his home. With a hesitant breath, he crossed the threshold, leaving the unnerving hush of the night behind, yet carrying with him the weight of an encounter with a silence that spoke volumes of the supernatural lurking just beyond the veil. A gasp caught in Thomas's throat as the door, once ajar, now stood resolute in its refusal to yield. The key dangled uselessly from his trembling fingers as he futilely wrestled with the unyielding barrier. Panic clawed at the edges of his mind, and a cold sweat broke across his forehead. He pressed his face against the window, desperate for a glimpse into the void that was now his home. The sight that met his eyes plunged him into a surreal nightmare, complete emptiness. The kitchen, once familiar and cluttered with life's minutiae, now lay shrouded in an impenetrable darkness. The dishes, the potted plants, the very essence of his home had been swallowed by the abyss. A hollow silence pervaded the air, and the void within the kitchen seemed to stretch into the heart of the house itself. Fear clawed at Thomas's chest as he pounded on the door, the sound of his own desperate cries swallowed by the nothingness beyond. The moon's feeble glow painted a ghostly canvas within the kitchen, revealing the emptiness that defied all logic. It was as if the very fabric of reality had unraveled, leaving behind a void where once there was substance. With a sense of foreboding, Thomas turned away from the locked door, his mind grappling with the impossibility of the scene before him. The house, once a sanctuary, now loomed as an enigma wrapped in shadows, and the key in his hand felt like a tether to a reality slipping through his fingers. As he stood alone in the silent void, the unsettling truth dawned upon him. Something beyond the realms of reason had claimed his home, leaving him stranded in a nightmarish limbo. Thomas stumbled out of the desolate garden, the gate creaking eerily behind him as he ventured into the abyss of the alleyway. The silence clung to him like an oppressive cloak, a void that swallowed not just sound but the very essence of life itself. The alley stretched before him like a tunnel into the unknown, the darkness so dense it seemed to swallow his very existence. Each footstep resonated with an unsettling clarity, the absence of ambient noise amplifying the disconcerting echo of his solitary journey. The street, once familiar and bathed in the comforting glow of streetlights, now lay enshrouded in an impenetrable darkness. The only source of illumination, a clouded moon, cast feeble rays upon the deserted pavement. The absence of streetlights left the path ahead obscured, a winding trail leading him further into the heart of an unnatural night. His senses strained against the vacuum of sound, the world outside reduced to a silent tableau. No distant traffic hum, no rustling leaves, only the haunting cadence of his footsteps on the deserted pavement. The oppressive stillness pressed upon him, each moment stretching into an eternity of isolation. The shadows played tricks on the edges of his vision, morphing into grotesque shapes that seemed to dance with malevolent intent. The journey down the desolate alley became a surreal odyssey, each step a confrontation with the unknown. Thomas pressed forward, the silence wrapping around him like a shroud. The world outside his home had become a distorted reality, a dreamscape devoid of life and sound. As he navigated the silent labyrinth of the streets, the unsettling question lingered in his mind: was he a mere wanderer in a desolate realm, or had the very fabric of his existence unraveled into the unknown? The road stretched before Thomas like a forgotten tapestry of shadows, the houses standing as silent sentinels in the oppressive darkness. A chilling realization dawned upon him as he scanned the row of homes. Each one lay cloaked in impenetrable blackness, a canvas void of any flicker of life. Driven by a desperate hope, Thomas approached his neighbor's door, the weight of the silence bearing down on him. He pressed the doorbell, a futile attempt to pierce the quietude that enveloped the neighborhood. To his dismay, the bell's chime was swallowed by the abyss, leaving only the echo of his own uncertainty. Undeterred, he pounded on the door, the rhythmic thuds resonating through the silence like a mournful drumbeat. Minutes passed like an eternity as he pleaded for a response, the hollow knocks echoing in the stillness of the night. The absence of any sign of life behind the door fueled a creeping dread within Thomas. With a sense of trepidation, he peered through the window, hoping to catch a glimpse of movement or light within the neighbor's abode. What met his gaze sent shivers down his spine, a void, much like the one that had claimed his own home. The rooms, once filled with the warmth of everyday life, now lay vacant and desolate. The furniture stood as silent witnesses to an absence that defied explanation. Thomas, now adrift in a sea of unanswered questions, stood alone on the doorstep, surrounded by the eerie silence that gripped the neighborhood. As the realization sank in, the disquieting truth settled upon him like a heavy fog. Whatever force had extinguished the life within his own home had now cast its shadow upon the entire street. The once familiar houses stood as silent monuments to a reality unraveling into the unknown, leaving Thomas to navigate the quiet expanse of a world consumed by an enigmatic void. Thomas's hurried footsteps echoed in the vacant streets as he traversed the silent expanse, the ghost town before him devoid of the familiar hustle and bustle of life. The shops, once adorned with colorful signs and familiar brands, now stood as anonymous shells, their identities erased by an unseen force. The eerie silence clung to him like a spectral shroud as he reached the edge of town, the nameless facades of the shops hauntingly staring back at him. The very essence of the place had been erased, leaving behind a landscape of forgotten memories and discarded echoes. As he pressed deeper into the heart of the eerily quiet town, a peculiar sight caught his eye, an open door bathed in an ominous red glow. The dim light spilled onto the desolate street, a beacon of both fascination and trepidation. The once vibrant storefront, now stripped of any recognizable branding, beckoned him into the unknown. With cautious steps, Thomas approached the mysterious entrance, his senses heightened by the unsettling atmosphere that surrounded him. The crimson glow intensified as he crossed the threshold, revealing an interior veiled in shadows and uncertainty. The air hung heavy with an otherworldly energy, and a hushed whisper permeated the silence, guiding him further into the enigmatic space. The shop, bereft of any discernible identity, seemed to pulse with an unseen force, its red hue casting eerie shadows on the walls. Fear and curiosity intertwined as Thomas ventured into the depths of the nameless establishment, his every step a hesitant exploration into the heart of a reality that had unfurled into the surreal. The red glow, a beacon in the silent void, whispered promises of answers, and Thomas, driven by the haunting absence of the world he once knew, walked further into the unknown, his journey a tentative dance with the enigma that had swallowed his reality whole. The red corridor stretched before Thomas like an endless ribbon of uncertainty, its dim glow flickering with each step he took. The once ominous red hue now seemed to darken, enveloping him in a cloak of obscurity. Undeterred by the disorienting surroundings, he pressed on, each footfall echoing in the abyss of the corridor. As Thomas continued his solitary journey, the red glow waned, casting shadows that seemed to reach out from the edges of his vision. The oppressive darkness closed in, making it increasingly difficult for him to discern the path ahead. A sense of isolation settled upon him, the rhythmic sound of his footsteps the only company in this surreal labyrinth. After what felt like an eternity, the monotonous journey took an unexpected turn, a staircase leading down into an even deeper abyss. The descent seemed to defy the spatial logic of the corridor, the steps vanishing into an impenetrable darkness. A haunting murmur emanated from below, a spectral chorus of whispers that reverberated through the unseen depths. As Thomas descended into the unknown, the whispers grew louder, the words, "End it now!" echoing with an unsettling urgency. The voices seemed to dance on the edge of his consciousness, their insistent chant sending shivers down his spine. The dim red glow barely illuminated the staircase, revealing only the silhouette of each step and the foreboding void below. Fear and curiosity warred within Thomas as he hesitated at the precipice of the descent, the whispers beckoning him further into the enigma that lay beneath. With a deep breath, Thomas took the first step into the shadows, the whispers enveloping him like a spectral embrace. The staircase spiraled into the abyss, and as he descended, the boundary between reality and the surreal blurred, leaving him to navigate a descent into a realm where the echoes of haunting voices whispered of an ominous destiny. The oppressive descent finally gave way to the cold embrace of the dimly lit room, its ceramic tiles echoing with the haunting whispers that now seemed to reverberate within Thomas's very bones. The air hung heavy, suffocating him as beads of sweat formed on his forehead, his breath labored from the arduous journey. The room stood devoid of any furnishings, an empty canvas draped in the cold ambience of ceramic tiles. A solitary window, seemingly out of place, this room must have been deep underground. Its presence hinted at an incongruity, as if Thomas had ventured far beneath the surface, yet this incongruous portal to the outside world lingered, a stark contrast to the desolate emptiness within. The window beckoned like a portal to the unknown, and as he approached, the dim light filtered through the glass, revealing a vast expanse below. A landscape stretched out beneath him, a tapestry of shadows and mysteries that seemed to extend into infinity. Yet the voices persisted, louder now, a cacophony of urging chants that clawed at his sanity. "End it now!" The whispers echoed, the words a relentless refrain that filled the room with a spectral urgency. Thomas opened the window and perched on the ledge, felt the weight of a decision pressing upon him. The cool breeze from the open window played with his hair as he stared into the abyss below. Doubt and desperation mingled in his mind, the line between reality and illusion blurred by the surreal nature of the journey. The haunting voices seemed to pull at the edges of his consciousness, urging him to surrender to the enigma that enveloped him. The view from the window became a metaphorical precipice, a threshold between the known and the unknowable. As he teetered on the edge, the question lingered: was this a dream, a twisted reality, or something beyond comprehension? The chilling mantra echoed louder, challenging Thomas to confront the shadows that clung to the edges of his existence. In that moment of profound uncertainty, Thomas grappled with the decision before him. The choice to leap into the abyss or resist the spectral call of the voices hung in the air like an unspoken truth, leaving him suspended between the realms of possibility and the chilling unknown. The decision to resist the haunting whispers hung in the air, and as Thomas turned away from the window, a surge of relief washed over him. Survival prevailed over the abyss, and he took the first step back up the staircase, eager to leave the enigmatic room behind. But in the heartbeat of that decision, a sudden rush of movement shattered the fragile illusion of control. A shadowy figure materialized from the darkness, a specter with an unseen agenda. Before Thomas could react, a forceful push sent him hurtling out of the window, plunging into the abyss below. The world blurred into a whirlwind of disorientation as Thomas descended, the void swallowing him whole. The chilling realization dawned upon him. He was free-falling into the unknown depths of the underworld. Panic gripped him as the ground below loomed closer, the landscape of shadows stretching into an infinity of uncertainty. The descent felt eternal, the silence broken only by the rush of air and the echoes of the distant voices that had led him to this fateful moment. Thomas braced for impact, his mind a whirlwind of confusion and fear. This must be the end, he thought, resigned to the inevitability of his fate. As the underworld swallowed him whole, Thomas grappled with the enigma that had torn apart the fabric of his reality. The descent into the unknown became a journey into the surreal, a plunge into a realm where answers eluded him, and the echoes of the whispers lingered in the abyss. In the midst of the freefall, The chilling uncertainty of his surroundings left him suspended in a surreal limbo, a captive of the mysterious forces that had rewritten the script of his existence. Thomas's descent into the underworld had felt like an eternity, a surreal journey through the unknown. As he braced for impact, a sudden silence enveloped him, a void that swallowed both sound and sensation. The world around him ceased to exist, leaving him suspended in a silent limbo. In the timeless expanse of silence, Thomas felt the faint tick-tock of a clock, a subtle reminder of the passage of time. The void persisted for what seemed like an eternity, a realm devoid of sensory experience. And then, as if emerging from the depths of a dream, Thomas felt the subtle pull of consciousness drawing him back. His eyes fluttered open, and the familiar glow of the television in screensaver mode greeted him. The living room, bathed in the soft light of the TV, surrounded him like a comforting embrace. The disorienting descent into the underworld, the whispers, and the shadows, all seemed like fragments of a distant nightmare. Thomas's hand instinctively reached into his pocket, finding the garden door key he had retrieved earlier. The tangible presence of the key hinted at a reality that blurred the lines between dream and waking life. A deep breath of relief escaped him as he confirmed the locked state of the kitchen door, the reassurance that his home had returned to its familiar confines. Peering out of the front window, Thomas noticed a distant glow emanating from one of the houses down the street. The light hinted at the return of life, a subtle affirmation that the surreal journey had concluded. Exhausted and mentally drained, Thomas sought refuge in the sanctuary of his bedroom, yearning for the solace of sleep. He drifted into a deep slumber, unaware of the dark figure that silently observed him from the doorway.